She learns the hardest kind of silence when love comes wearing someone else's last name. The first time Elena understands this, she is 17, and the man who calls himself her stepfather says he is only keeping her safe. He never raises his voice. He doesn't have to. Mark is a steady winter. He lowers the temperature and watches who shivers first. Rules change like weather. New curfew, new passwords, new reasons her friends are bad news. He smiles while he locks doors. He teaches her mother to say, he means well, and teaches Elena to say, I'm sorry, even when nothing has happened yet. Detachment begins as a bruise of thought. What if I could leave the room without asking? She writes the question, hides it under the mattress, and lies awake listening for the soft click of Mark's shoes in the hall. He checks windows. He checks her phone. He measures her breathing when she pretends to sleep. The house worships order. Shoes in pairs. Dishes silent in the rack. Laughter requested in advance. On the counter sits a notebook titled Household Systems. A prettier word for rules. First, safety. Second, privacy. His. Third, trust, obedience. Elena splits herself. At school, careful bright. At home, a locked drawer. She speaks in short sentences that leave no fingerprints. Yes, I understand. I won't. Mark edits memories while people are still living them. If he is late, she misread the clock. If she cries, she is learning. If she smiles too easily, she must be hiding something. The crime is that she exists without permission. One snow heavy night, her mother loses her keys and laughs. By morning, the spares are gone and the rule sits on the table. Keys live in the blue bowl, never anywhere else. Elena looks at the bowl, blue as a bruise, and knows the rule isn't about keys. It is about who may laugh. The first detachment choice looks harmless. Her friend Ren invites her to the library after class. Mark has pre-approved Tuesdays for productive study, but not with Ren, who asks questions. Elena feels tightness behind her ribs. She texts Ren. Maybe. Deletes it. Texts. I can't. Deletes it. Her thumb hovers over yes. She goes. The library smells like old paper. Ren saves her a seat by the window. Snow falls like static. For once, Elena's body forgets to flinch. They whisper over homework and wander the stacks. Ren asks how things are at home. Elena tries the truth in a small size. Calm, she says. Like a winter that never ends. Ren's face softens. You deserve spring. On the walk back, Elena's shoulders lift. She arrives before curfew. Technically on time. Completely guilty. Mark waits at the kitchen island, hands folded like quiet wires. The blue bowl sits between them. How was studying? He asks in the voice of a doctor who already has the results. Elena chooses careful honesty. Good. He nods. With Ren. Not a question. Yes, she says and watches the test begin. The first needle is concern. Ren is passionate. Passion can confuse judgment. The second is love. We want you safe. The third is math. You were 9 minutes unaccounted for. Explanations are confessions. She stays quiet. He smiles. We'll fix it with structure. A new line appears in household systems. Tuesday library requires parental presence. That night, Elena looks at the page under her mattress. What if I could leave the room without asking? She adds another line. What if leaving is not a sin but a skill? Next day, Ren hands her a cheap flip phone and a number. For emergencies only. For reality checks. Elena wants to refuse. Refusal is how control survives. Instead, she pockets the weight dot he notices anyway. Controllers smell exits. He praises the future he picked for her, a college nearby, a major that fits household systems, a life with doors that lock softly. I pulled your mother from a storm, he says. I keep this roof quiet for you both. Detachment is not drama. It is distance measured in choices. She maps the house like pain. Where does he stand to watch the hallway? Which stair does not creak? When does the router sweep? She times her heartbeat after each small no. A Friday comes with thaw. Mark schedules a family night and confiscates phones. Elena smiles and hands him hers. The flip phone waits in her backpack. They watch an old movie. When the credits roll, Mark says, "Wasn't that healthy?" Elena says, "It was accurate." After midnight, she pauses at the mirror and decides not to apologize to her reflection. She slips to the garage and sits in the car with the doors locked. She opens the flip phone and types to Ren. "Tomorrow, bus station, 7 to 10. Deletes it. Breathes. Types again. "Tomorrow. Please come. Back in her room. The page under the mattress feels warm. She adds a third line. What if walking away is not the end of love, but the beginning of respect? She folds the page and tucks it in her boot. At 6:40, she hears Mark humming. At 6:50, the blue bowl settles on wood. At 6:55, the lock turns twice. At 7:02, she hears nothing, which is the sound of a chance. She steps into her boots. She lifts her bag. The knob cools her palm. Her mother's door stays closed. Elena walks the hall with a neutral face. The front door opens like a held breath. Mark stands on the porch in his running shoes. "Going somewhere?" he asks. Elena feels the old script reach for her tongue. Ask, explain, apologize. She notices the weight in her backpack, the page in her boot, the way air tastes when it is not supervised. Her heartbeat counts the steps. "Yes," she says, and steps past him to the stairs, where frost wakes like teeth. He tilts his head. "You forgot your phone." She keeps walking. "No," she says, without turning. "I remembered myself." Elena does not look back. She steps off the porch into metal-tasting air and walks until the house shrinks behind bare trees. Mark does not follow. His kind prefers forms and phone calls to footsteps. At the bus stop, Ren waits with her hood up and a relieved smile. They stand shoulder to shoulder like people who found the same door in a burning building. They ride downtown in near silence. Snow blurs the city. Ren slips an envelope into Elena's pocket, a prepaid SIM and a number written twice. "Cash only," she whispers. "No names." In the windows rattle, Elena feels something new. Space inside her chest that isn't supervised. Ren pays in cash. At a back table, Elena powers her old phone just long enough to copy 2 contacts, Lena from school counseling, and Detective Franco, then slides the phone into a padded mailer addressed to a P.O. box she will rent tomorrow. "Breadcrumbs," Ren says. "Ones you control." By noon, they buy a cheap handset from a bright store. Outside, wind lifts Elena's scarf. "I'm responsible for what I answer, not what he asks," she says. Ren's cousin offers a couch. The door locks. No one asks to hear it click. Elena showers until the mirror fogs, then sits with the new phone powered off like a sleeping animal. Detachment becomes homework in small, clean lines. A new email without her last name, a folder labeled proof. The first email finds her anyway. Subject: wellness visit. A guardian has reported concern for a minor at risk. An officer may verify safety. The wording is polite and exact, the shape of Mark's voice when he moralizes. Elena forwards it to Lena in Youth Services, prints it for the folder. The knock comes after dark. 2 officers stand in the hall. Ren's cousin answers. Elena steps into view. "I'm Elena," she says. "I left a controlling home. I'm safe. I'm staying with friends. I'm not missing." In private, she describes control without bruises, passwords audited, friends disqualified, curfew shaped to suspicion, love used like a receipt. The older officer nods. Call if you need us. After they leave, Ren makes tea. Soft stocking, she says. The hero costume. Elena warms her hands. He loves a stage. They build boring power. The P.O. box form, the old number. Redirected to a voicemail that says, the person you reached is not available. Redirected to a voicemail that says, the person you reached is not available. Days braid into small work. Elena gets a bussing job at a diner where the supervisor speaks in verbs: carry, wipe, breathe. Twice she sees a sedan idling at the corner that could be Mark's. The second time she photographs the plate and emails it to the officer with the subject pattern. She is done being interpretive. She will be factual. The next escalation arrives at work. An email reaches the manager from a concerned citizen. A young woman may be exploited. Please verify employment and welfare. He calls her into his office. Do you need help? He asks. She slides the officer's card across. Someone is performing worry for an audience, she says. He studies the card. Clock back in when you're ready. That night, a gift bag waits with the building super. A sweater in her size, a note in her mother's neat hand. We just want you warm, plus a receipt circled. Kindness as trapdoor. Elena photographs it, logs the time, and places the bag in a cupboard labeled evidence. She messages her mother through an archival app. I am safe. Please stop indirect contact. Future messages will be forwarded to authorities. At the library, Elena prints a no-contact letter drafted by legal aid. It requires only her signature. She adds one approved line. Any baseless wellness reports will be treated as harassment. Ren reads it and smiles. A lock that turns the right way. Another text comes from a number saved as weather. Ready to talk when you stop letting friends decide for you. The words pretend to be a code. Elena screenshots, timestamps, uploads, and powers the phone off. She tapes a protective order checklist. Inside a kitchen cabinet, so survival sits beside ordinary life. Friday morning, the sky looks like a clean plate. Halfway to work, a patrol car slows. The officer asks her name, then says, your stepfather filed another wellness call. Elena's stomach drops and steadies. I documented prior reports, she replies. Do you need copies? He shakes his head. We'll note it. You did the right thing leaving. She thanks him without letting the words own her dot. She carries plates and quiet through the lunch rush. Control feeds on spectacle. Detachment starves it. After the late shift, a thin envelope waits at the diner door. Inside is a photocopy of the no-contact letter she hasn't mailed. A sticky note attached. Happy to discuss edits before you embarrass yourself. No signature. She photographs the page, emails it to the officer and legal aid, and walks into the wet night. Rain needles the sidewalk. A sedan idles down the block, or maybe it's a delivery car. She refuses to rehearse fear on his schedule. At the apartment, she files the envelope under proof, then sits with a pen and the letter. Detachment is choosing your own evening. She signs without shaking, seals the envelope, and sets it by the door like a small truth ready to move. The new phone buzzes once before she powers it down. A voicemail transcribes without a number. We miss you. Adults handle conflict face to face. Be brave. The words are polite and hollow. Elena deletes nothing. She saves everything. Inside, the room feels wide, like a window that was never on the blueprint. She turns off the lamp and lies still, listening to the apartment breathe. A door closes below. Water ticks in a pipe above. She thinks of the blue bowl on the old counter. Keys lined like soldiers. Laughter with permission. She thinks of her sentence. I am responsible for what I answer. In the dark, she repeats it until her heartbeat matches. Tomorrow she will mail the letter. Elena wakes before the small building alarms for coffee and buses. She dresses in plain clothes that feel like quiet armor and slides the receipt for her no-contact letter into her wallet. Outside, rain has rinsed the streets until everything looks newly made. Her phone stays off. She walks to the diner with the relief of someone who set down a heavy box and finally notices her hands. At the door, there is no envelope, no bag, no worry disguised as kindness. She breathes, clocks in, and stacks glasses in the low sun. By noon, she has cleared 20 tables. Ren texts, "You good?" Elena replies with a dot. The manager asks her to cover the host stand. She nods and steps to the front, where strangers become short stories for 3 breaths each. He appears as a reflection. Glass, coat, posture, then Mark. He turns the handle with practiced gentleness. "Hi, Elena," he says. "I was nearby." She watches him scan the space exits, witnesses sympathy. 2 fingers rest on the counter. A claim without pressure. "I'm not staying," she says at last. 3 words, room temperature. "You think I want a scene?" He smiles. "I just wanted to see your face." "Your mother misses you." "I miss you." She lets the air answer. "I've respected your choices," he says. But adults talk. Adults meet. Adults don't hide behind friends or officers or signatures. He taps the counter, a metronome for his morality. "You're smarter than this." A couple enters. Elena seats them, pours water, and returns without hurry. "I can help you," he says. Classes resume plans. "You threw away so much out of hurt." He speaks like a rescue. She lets him. "Ren is not good for you," he adds, softer. "She makes you smaller." She tells you who to be. His smile tries to land like mercy. "You've lost weight." Elena's face does not move. Inside, she writes minutes. He lowers his voice. "I filed because I was afraid for you. I told them you panic. You need structure or the world eats you." That's love. Elena turns the seating chart a 1/4 inch. "We don't have a table for this," she says. "Do you hear yourself?" He asks. "You sound cruel." Once that word changed weather. Now it is only a note. She breathes and lets seconds build a wall. He fills it with words. "I forgave what you said," he murmurs. "I forgave the letter. I even forgave how you embarrassed your mother, making strangers believe." He stops, a hand opening to catch something he cannot throw. "You're better than this performance." Elena thinks of the blue bowl and keys that were never about keys. Of the photocopied letter left at a door like a consultation that cut. "Your meal is ready," she says, placing a laminated menu on the counter as if his story were a purchase. "What do you want from me?" He asks, soft, almost honest. The question is baked. She lets it sit. He cannot carry silence long. "Fine," he says, exhaling. "I'll withdraw the checks. I'll tell your manager I was mistaken. But he must do something for me. Come home for dinner. 1 hour, no arguments. Show your mother you're not angry. We can start again." A familiar pull stirs, the reflex to make peace with the person moving the furniture of truth. She names it, trained apology. It passes like a cloud's shadow. "What you call home is a schedule," she says quietly. "What you call dinner is a test." A bus exhales outside. Someone laughs near the coffee pots. He sets a small velvet box on the counter. "Your mother wanted you to have this. It was your grandmother's." The lid opens a breath, cedar glinting. Gifts are leashes with prettier metal. He is certain she will touch it. She does not. "Please remove your property from the counter," she says. For a second, the mask shifts, not off, but crooked. Irritation shows, then vanishes. "You're making a mistake," he whispers. "We're at capacity," she says. "You'll need to leave." A customer behind him clears his throat. The line has lengthened. Strangers are watching. Mark straightens, gathers the box, smooths his coat, and leans in, close enough to perform intimacy. "This is not the end of us," he says. "You'll understand when you're older." "I'm older now," she says and turns to the next guest. "Welcome in." He hesitates, then steps back and becomes a reflection again. Glass, coat, posture, weather moving on without him. Ren appears with a pitcher. "You okay?" she whispers. Elena looks at the door, at the space he used to fill like an uninvited idea. "He sounds smaller out loud," she says. "That's because you stopped being his echo," Ren answers. Elena's hands shake once, like a body finishing a long run. She sets the shaken down beside the menus and keeps going. The afternoon unfolds in plates and names, and change counted twice. On break, she photographs the spot where he set the box habit in evidence. At closing, the manager locks the front. "Quiet day," he says. Quiet is not always silence. Sometimes it is sovereignty. On the walk home, the air is clear and cold, the kind that makes breath visible. Her phone stays off like a good boundary. In the apartment, she writes 3 lines on a fresh page and does not hide it. Silence is a skill. Distance is a door. Walking away is a way of speaking. She signs the date and leaves the page on the table in the open, a light left on for herself to find. She washes her hands and studies her reflection, surprised by the steadiness in her eyes. On the counter, the mail key waits beside a stamped envelope for legal aid. Tomorrow she will send copies of everything. When she turns off the kitchen light, a car passes outside, slow, gone. She breathes and chooses sleep without listening for footsteps tonight. Elena wakes to ordinary light and the low hum of the kettle. She opens the window and lets air drift through curtains that no longer hide secrets. Morning feels harmless. Once, every sound meant something, a test, a cue. Now she lets them pass. Ren texts a photo of a lopsided plant, thriving by accident. Elena types back, "Me too." On the table, the folder labeled proof sits closed. The wellness checks have stopped. Sleep comes most nights without asking permission. She walks to the diner through slanted light. The manager points her to prep. Cups, cutlery, small routines keep her balanced. After the lunch rush, she sits on the back steps near a thin maple. A woman from the bakery offers a cigarette. Elena declines and listens to a story about a cat that adopted the block. The world feels wider than one man's rules. In the afternoon, she and Ren restock napkins and read a flyer. Assertive communication without apology. "That used to be called trouble," Elena says. Ren grins. "Now it's called Tuesday." At closing, a customer leaves a note on a receipt. "You have a calm way." Elena folds it carefully. It's the first compliment she believes. The bus home is half full. A father bargains with a toddler about mittens. A couple shares earbuds. Elena watches her reflection and sees no editor behind her eyes. In her notebook she writes, "Practice staying. Practice leaving. Practice choosing which one." At the apartment, she waters the rescued balcony plant. The soil smells honest. A shout rises from the street and fades. She thinks of the night she escaped and how every sound then felt like a warning. Tonight the city just breathes. Dinner is pasta with too much garlic. She eats by the window, listening to a weather report that gives no commands. After dishes, she fills out community college forms. She doesn't know what she'll study, only that it will be her choice. Her mother calls twice from a new number. No messages. Elena logs the times. Not fear, just record keeping. She imagines her mother telling someone, "Love is complicated." Elena wishes her peace from afar. Near midnight, she mails the registration and pauses in the hall to watch rain. Started slow applause. The building smells of soap and old carpet. A neighbor laughs somewhere. She gives herself permission to go back inside. Days stack quietly. She learns the weight of ordinary boredom. Reads in laundromats. Drinks coffee facing any direction she wants. Detachment becomes space, not armor. The line she wrote, "Walking away is a way of speaking," changes tone daily. Some days a whisper, some days a bell. At legal aid, she files the last paper. No contact, no third-party deliveries. A volunteer says, "You're doing it right." Elena replies, "I like rules when they're mine." On the way out, she donates the velvet box unopened. She doesn't need to know which memory it tried to buy. Ren moves nearby. They trade dinners on Thursdays, talk about buses and a new park path by the river. Sometimes they mention him without using his name, a silence they both enjoy. Once Ren asks, "Do you still feel watched?" Elena answers, "Less. And when I do, I move the camera back to me." One evening, the diner hosts a charity night. The room buzzes. A woman at table 6 says, "You have your own weather." Elena replies, "I stopped forecasting storms that weren't mine." On Sunday, she and Ren walk the river path. Children roll with sticks. Cyclists glide by. On the footbridge, Elena releases a thought like a pebble. He can't own the view. She watches ripples fade without following. That night she dreams of a house with doors that open both ways. Morning paints soft gold across the floor. She brews coffee, sets 2 cups, one for now, one for someday. The neighbor's radio hums old soul music full of brass and forgiveness. In the afternoon, she drops a bag of clothes at the thrift store. Through the glass, she spots a blue bowl like the one from before. She looks until it's just a bowl. On the way home, she buys fresh basil that smells like a green door opening. Evening brings quiet rain. She writes her name on an index card and tapes it inside a new book. It feels like building a private room inside her own life. She powers off her phone and steps onto the balcony, towel over her shoulders, rain touching her hands. A car turns the corner and slows. The engine idles, patient. Headlights pin her to the railing. The car doesn't park. It drifts to the curb across from the diner's side street. The driver is a dark silhouette. Rain beads and slides, distorting every outline. Elena stays still. The old script stirs the reflex to interpret danger instead of live. She names the feeling, lets it shrink. The silhouette tilts its head once, counting windows, then looks away. A minute passes. The engine hums. Wipers click in slow rhythm. She retreats to the kitchen and lights the stove. The kettle begins to sing. 2 mugs. She puts one back. When she returns to the doorway, the car remains. She lifts her phone, takes a single picture. No zoom, no drama, just proof. She saves it in the file marked pattern and closes the app. She thinks of that note. You have a calm way. She thinks of signing her freedom letter, of the bowl that stopped being scripture. Her breathing evens. The car's turn signal blinks once, amber through rain, then merges into traffic. Tail lights bend away. Inside, the kettle stops. She pours and sits by the open window. Steam curls like her own handwriting. She opens her notebook. I will not narrate his shadow louder than my life. Then another line. Tonight the rain sounds like my name, not his. When the cup is empty, she sets it in the sink. The apartment is dark, but not a tunnel, finally a home. She looks toward the door and smiles, small and sure. From here, the future isn't a rescue. It's a room she's building, one quiet day at a time. If this story made you feel the power of walking away and the quiet strength of detachment, subscribe for more dark psychology stories. Share this with someone learning to reclaim their peace. And comment the moment you finally chose yourself. Your words might help another escape their silence.